Hi everyone, welcome back. Okay, yesterday that we have already done the September 2018, okay, and continuation for today's work. Okay, we will be going through the specimen number 2, okay, which is on Railco Trust Board. All right. Okay. So I've already actually sent you this particular past years, which has already been annotated. Okay, so that it will be clearer for you to see what we are going to go through tonight. Okay, let's go through this particular question. Okay, it is on Railco, and if you notice that I circled, all right, this is a public sector rail company. That means it's under government, all right, and responsible for delivering passenger rail services within BLAN. And here it says that Railco is governed by a supreme governing committee known as Railco Trust Board. And this board is responsible to the Ministry of Transport, okay, which is the government, right, for ensuring that the Railco Board of Directors, okay, make the best use of public money and maintain effective and efficient services to the public. Okay, if you notice that as a government agency, you will notice that the use of the public money is actually for maintaining effective and efficient services. Okay, this particular organization is not a profit organization, and definitely they will not be making any profit. Right, so you can see that the difference in terms of the objective of the company, the organization. So basically, government organization is actually to use public money, making sure that the community, that is the public, gets the best service out of the public money. That means the taxpayer paying the money. So we must make sure that as a government agency to actually utilize that particular money effectively and efficiently. So basically, that's the background of Railco Trust. Okay, Railco company, all right, where the supreme governing body is actually the Railco Trust. Okay, that is the one who will be responsible to report to the Ministry of Transport. Okay, this is what is given in your question. Okay, this is the governance structure. So from Railco Trust, okay, is actually overseeing the board members, making sure that the board members are actually using the public money at the best interest of the public. Okay, so you can see that this particular chart shows that they have 5 committee running from executive, okay, safety and health, okay, audit and risk committee, remuneration and nomination, and corporate governance committee. And this particular overview also mentioned that this National Audit Authority of BLAN is a national government audit authority with responsibility for evaluating reporting to the government of BLAN on public spending. All right. So suggesting improvements to and benchmarking against the performance of a wide range of publicly funded organizations. So basically, this is what the National Audit Committee are doing. All right. So they are the one who is going to actually see whether, okay, in this particular example, whether Real Trust Co, okay, is actually, okay, reporting to the, evaluating how they actually report to the government of BLAN on their public spending, okay, how they spend the money for these rail services, okay. So National Audit Authority actually will tell them if it's necessary for them to make any improvements, okay, after that particular evaluation, and they will also do some benchmarking. So the National Audit Committee, the NAA, also has responsibility to advise on the value for money. Okay, so I hope you can still remember your past knowledge on what value for money is all about. Okay, definitely those who have already studied F5 before this, all right, you'll know what are the value for money. That is here the economy, okay, efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, so this is basically the performance evaluation for non-profit organization. Okay, so when you look at this particular overview, okay, it says here as well that, okay, on top of having this particular responsibility to advise, okay, on the value for money obtained from the publicly owned enterprises and on the performance of the boards of such organizations, including the senior executive of these particular boards. So, and the next paragraph did mention that Railco has recently had this negative publicity in the media. So you may want to actually gauge, okay, most probably in one of the exhibits you might actually have this report, okay, on Railco services, and from variety of other sources relating to its poor services and performance. Okay, this has prompted the Minister for Transport of Bilan to commission the NAA to undertake an urgent investigation of the issues facing Railco. So what is being given to you? Okay, exhibits from 1 to 6. Okay, which is pertinent to Railco is exhibit number 1. You'll find that there's a website page for Railco, okay, on leadership and governance. And then what you also have is exhibit number 2. It's a transport report published in the Bilan Herald newspaper. This is what the media, okay, that you found in this particular paragraph here that talks about negative publicity. All right. So exhibit number 3, passenger survey results and performance analysis spreadsheet for Railco and its competitors' 3 years data. So definitely you may want to have a look at this passenger survey results and performance analysis spreadsheet for Railco. All right. So you may refer back to the value for money that was actually mentioned by the NAA. All right. And its comparators, 3 years data. That means there must be some comparison that's actually being made. You have not gone through the exhibit yet, so you wouldn't know, but at least you can gauge what to expect inside that particular exhibit. Okay, under exhibit number 4 is a Railco board meeting minutes. Okay, exhibit number 5, outline person specification and a summary series for 2 candidates for the new chief executive position. So this actually tells you that Railco is considering of appointing a new chief executive officer for Railco. So they have this particular 2 CVs which you have to actually look at it and evaluate which of these particular 2 candidates is actually, okay, and the right person to actually be appointed as a chief executive. Okay, we will go through that later. Exhibit number 6 is ticket sales, okay, ticket sales, passenger usage data, and fraud analysis at stations in towns within the region. 1, Bilan network prepared by the financial controller of Railco. So there are actually issues of some fraud here, I would say, because they did mention about fraud analysis at stations, and they did also mention about ticket sales and passenger usage data. So roughly you may think of there are bound to be some incidents of fraud taking place, perhaps, okay. You are not sure at this point because why? You have not gone through the exhibits, but at least from this particular overview, you'll be able to gauge, and I think by now you should be able to expect what would be the possible kind of requirements that you may get next. Okay, let's have a look at this first case. The case requirements are as follows, and you'll be told which role you are taking in each task, right? So requirement number 1, your role. Which one is actually your role? Okay, this is you. Okay, and who are you here? You are non-executive member, and then chairman. Not just that you are a non-executive member, okay, you are a non-executive member and chairman of the Nominations and Corporate Governance Committee. Okay, that's the role that you are playing. Where in the governance structure? This is where you are in the governance structure. All right, you are here. Hold on. Okay, so basically this is where you are. All right, the nomination and corporate governance committee member, and you are a non-executive director. All right, so what should you know about the non-executive director? Okay, it means that you are not part of the operation of the railco. Okay, so the recently appointed chairman of the railco trust has requested that you provide him with information relating to the governance of railco and the roles and responsibilities of the non-executive directors. Okay, so don't be confused, okay, with this particular chairman that's being given here. Okay, they say that they have appointed chairman of the railco trust board. Okay, has requested you, but remember your role is actually chairman of the nomination and corporate governance committee. Definitely it's two different people. Okay, so you have to read your requirements carefully. Okay, take your time to actually digest what is being actually written there and the instruction that's being given to you, because sometimes if you don't read it carefully, you might misinterpret that particular information and end up you might answer different thing. All right, that's where you are not going to get marks at all. So be careful, okay, when you read all these particular requirements. Okay, what is it that you are required to do? You are required to, you have been asked to prepare a briefing paper. So this is like what we went through yesterday. This is your task. Okay, your audience now is the chairman of the railco trust, and your role is a non-executive member and chairman of the nomination and corporate governance committee. So in this particular briefing paper, you are supposed to be identifying, all right, identifies and explains agency relationship of parties involved in railco. So before you are able to identify and explain the agency relationship of parties involved in railco, you must know what agency relationship is all about. All right, it's about between a relationship between a principal and a agent. So a simple scenario, principal is actually the one that perhaps, okay, the one that asks you to do something, and then the agent is the one that's going to execute whatever that you ask them to do. All right, so basically that's what an agent and principal relationship is, okay, in a simple term. Okay, so if you know that particular simple term and you know what it means, then it will be easier for you to actually know who the parties involved in railco. And the next part, okay, because this particular question, okay, look at here that I put here one question verb two, and then after that I have question verb three. That means there are three things that you must actually have inside your answer. All right. One, to identify, and at the same time you explain the agency relationship of parties involved in railco. And then after that, you're supposed to be discussing, okay, discusses the rights and responsibilities of those parties. So once you have already identified and explained those parties, okay, in relation to the agency relationship, the next thing that you need to actually do is actually discuss the rights and the responsibilities of those parties. So it must be the same party that you have actually mentioned in question verb 1 and 2. It cannot be someone else, because they ask you to actually discuss the rights and responsibilities of those parties. Okay? And here you are being tested on communication skills. So you need to actually identify and explain it clearly, at the same time discuss it clearly. All right. So because communication skills is actually testing you, okay, on inform, persuade, and clarify. So basically your explanations must actually be clear, and like I mentioned to you earlier, nobody is actually going to question you after you write that particular sentence. Nobody is going to ask you, so what next? So if you have people questioning you, and if yourself were to question that, okay, that means you have not actually explained it clearly. Okay, then the next one will be assesses the role and the value of non-executive directors on the board of Railco as a public sector company. So you are supposed to be assessing the role and value of non-executive directors on the board of Railco as a public sector company. So for this particular question, all right, you need to actually know the role of executive director, all right, generally what the roles are and what value does it give, okay, in general. And once you know that, that's your technical knowledge, okay, that's why I put a K here, all right. Once you know the technical knowledge on the role and the values, okay, can be given by these non-executive directors, then you relate it back to the board of Railco as a public sector company. And this particular question is actually testing you on the evaluation skill, where you are supposed to be assessing, estimating, and appraising. So I hope you are clear on this. Okay. Okay. If you notice at the side here, you still have to go back to your marks. Okay, like this. Okay. Why do you need to go back to your marks? Because the marks will actually guide you, okay, to what extent that you're supposed to be writing your answer. So with only 8 marks and 6 marks here, you don't have to actually write at length. It's enough for you to actually have your points to answer the requirements of the question. So if you think that you can't think of too much points to write, okay, remember I'm 2/3 of the marks is already good enough for your points. Okay, basically out of 8, 2/3 of 8, okay, would actually good enough. If you have points that can actually fulfill the 6 marks, you can still pass. It's 6 out of 8. As if less doesn't mean that when you get 6 out of 8, you wouldn't get the 2 professional marks. Okay, you may get a full professional marks, okay, as long as you are able to write clearly. Okay, it has to be brief, it has to be succinct. So you need to actually write clearly, express your thoughts clearly. So here is 6 marks, so definitely, right, if it's just 2/3 of the marks, you can still pass. Okay, so far, any questions? Do you have any question? All right, okay, I have 2 questions here. Okay, you were asking about the 2 chairmen. Okay, like I mentioned to you just now, this is 2 different type of chairmen, bear in mind, all right? If you look at the question carefully, okay, you are non-executive member and chairman of the committee. You are not chairman of the board, all right? So you are just the chairman of the committee that you are heading. And the one that actually gives you instruction or requested you to provide them with information is actually the chairman of the Railco Trust Board. So when you look at the structure just now, all right, you are you are actually the chairman here, right? You head this particular committee. But the one that gives you instruction is up here, okay, is the chairman of the Railco Trust Board. Okay, when you look here is the Railco Trust Board, which is much more superior, is up here. This particular guy here, this chairman, is actually giving the instruction to the chairman down here. All right, so it's 2 different portfolio. I hope you're clear. Okay, this is why I say if you have questions, you think that it doesn't make sense to you, you try your best to actually reread, okay, the question and make sure it's clear. Because if you're not clear on the instruction and information given, then it's going to be very difficult for you to answer it. Okay. So you are asking on, okay, kindly explain, assess and estimate in evaluation. All right. When it comes to assess, what do you do when you assess inside your professional skills? What does that particular words actually tells you? So basically, all right, when you have all these particular skills being tested, all right, assess, estimate, and appraise, basically you are supposed to be actually looking into possible courses of actions that are being examined from different perspectives, and where relevant, you are supposed to be clearly stating reasonable assumptions and including points both for and against. So once you are doing that, all right, you are actually demonstrating all these particular 3 skills together. All right. So at the end, you are making some conclusions. Okay, whether actually, okay, the kind of values that you in this case, we are talking about the values that the non-executive directors actually have, okay, on board of Railco as a public company. All right. So once you look into the role, the general role, you're supposed to be relating it to the non-executive directors for this board of Railco. And then once you are able to actually, explain on the values that it gives, okay, to this particular company indirectly, that you are already estimating and you are already doing your appraisal. All right. So your sentences, okay, when you do your when you assess, all right, so that's where you have to actually be very careful, because the moment that you assess, automatically the moment you start writing, okay, what does actually assess means? This is why I say every time that you have question verbs and you are still not clear on what it means, it's good that you have your ACCA question verbs all the time with you. Okay. Because why? For my students, it helps a lot, because every time that they look at that particular assessment, okay, word like assess, identify, explain, they know what to do. All right. So for those who are already in the WhatsApp group, I will be sending it to you, okay, that particular question verbs, which can actually help you to answer the question. Okay, there's another one. When answering question like A, lump together using and is using headers the best way to split this for marker to see? All right, it's good. Okay, it's good that you can actually separate it, because why? When you look at A, it says here that identifies and explain. Perhaps these two you can actually do it together, because once you start identifying the agency relationship of the parties in there, all right, so basically you are actually answering. Identify means determine who they are, and then explain the relationship between them. And once you have that, okay, maybe your heading would be agency relationship, okay, in Railco as your heading. And then the next one is you can have another heading that is rights and responsibilities. And the rights of responsibilities, okay, would be the person that you have identified earlier. All right. So it's good if you are able to break it, so that the marker will be able to see that you actually answering all the requirements. Okay. But there are times, okay, that even if the question is giving you many verbs, question verbs, there are times that the question need to be actually answered together, but you can actually answer it in sequence. That means, for example, okay, let's say that you did not break it. But what you can do is that, okay, you can actually answer it, because this is a briefing paper, right? So you can actually answer it according to paragraph. That means once you have identified the relationship of the principal and agent, okay, then you are going to explain it, and then after that you are going to discuss these particular parties' role, rights and responsibilities together after that. But my advice is that it's good if you are able to break it into two parts. Okay, so do you have any more questions before we move on to the next one? Okay, I'm expecting that since we have actually gone through how to prepare an answer plan from our September 2018, okay, after we have actually gone through this, okay, if let's say, okay, I don't think so we have actually time to actually go through the answer plan together, okay, during this particular webinar, but I will continue to actually have it with you, okay, via the WhatsApp group. All right. So that's the beauty of the WhatsApp group, so that we can actually extend our webinar through that. Okay, the next part here, okay, I've already actually divided into colors. The reason is, right, you'll find that some of the exhibits that you're going to go through, okay, are in different colors, and you will know which one is to be associated with which particular questions. This is just to help you in associating it with, okay, points that you can actually use for which particular question. Okay, under number 2. Who are you now? You are an assistant auditor. All right, reporting to Alex Reed, the senior audit officer of NAA. So you are actually a junior auditor. Okay, you're just an assistant auditor reporting to this Alex. And Alex is actually leading a team of assistant auditors, and you are part of them. Okay, you are one of those that he is actually having in his team. An audit analyst, okay, as team of assistant auditors and audit analysts, and will be responsible for reporting the findings of NAA's investigation of Railco to a number of relevant parties, including Minister of Transport, the Board of Directors of Railco, all right, and then Railco Transport. So basically, okay, when you go back to the structure again, where do you think that the Ministry of Transport is in indirectly? If you were to put it in this particular governance structure, it'll be on top here. Okay, it'll be up here. All right. So you will have one here that is actually the ministry. Sorry. Okay, you will have it as the up here. All right. So because Ministry of Transport is the government, okay, who actually have this supreme governing committee known as Railco Trust to actually be on behalf of the government, and then they also have board of directors as well to actually supposed to be ensuring that, okay, the money are actually being used wisely. So when you go back to this particular question number 2, okay, at least you have some rough picture that whom are your audiences. Okay, you have many audiences here. Okay, they are the relevant parties: Ministry of Transport, Board of Directors of Railco, and Railco Transport. Okay, as part of the investigation commissioned by the Minister of Transport to be undertaken by the NAA, one of the audit analysts working on your audit team has prepared a spreadsheet supplying a variety of data following the recent passenger survey results and using other relevant performance-related information. So basically the audit analyst, okay, has actually prepared some spreadsheets, okay, which you may find it in the exhibits, all right? Why? Because from this particular overview, right, exhibit number 3 is about passenger survey results and performance analysis spreadsheet. So this is the one, and most likely it has been prepared by the analyst just now. So you may want to have a look at it. So Alex Reed has asked you to prepare a report. So hope you still remember the format of a report, okay, which we have already run through in the first webinar, okay, the first day of the webinar for the Railco Trust Board, okay. So what you are supposed to be doing is you are supposed to be evaluating, okay, evaluates the implication, right? So you're supposed to be evaluating the implication. What kind of implication that we are talking about here? Okay, that means you are supposed to be, okay, mentioning about the evidence, the case, the point, the issue, okay, that supports the implication of the findings of the passenger survey results, and you are supposed to be, and what, reviews the actual and relative performance of Railco over the last 3 years. So two things here, evaluating the implication of the result, okay, survey results, and then you're supposed to be reviewing actual and relative performance of Railco over the last 3 years. It's 12 marks, basically, all right, it'll be like half, okay, 6 marks for the implication, evaluating the implication, and perhaps another 6 marks for the review, all right? And here you are being tested on analysis skills. So how are you all so far? And I hope you understand this particular requirement, all right? I think so far so good. I don't have any question on this. So next, okay, remember 2 things here. Why do I say these 2? It's because, right, not just that you are evaluating, but you're supposed to be doing the review as well, right? So next thing will be this one. A few days later, Alex Reed called Hugh into his office to discuss Railco's governance and internal controls. Okay. During that meeting, he referred to the transport report in the Beeland Herald newspaper, which is Exhibit 2. Okay, it's mentioned here, so it's easier for you to refer to. And handed you a copy of the minutes of the last board meeting held by Railco, Exhibit number 4. So in this particular requirement, it's obvious that you are going to refer to these 2 particular exhibits. But doesn't mean that when they refer to these 2 exhibits, you are not going to actually look at other exhibits. Okay, there might be some information that's actually relevant, okay, from other exhibits that can actually support your answer for this particular part. All right, so you are required to draft a letter, okay, to be sent to the chairman of the Railco Trust Board. So here you need to know how the format of letter would be. So you're supposed to be drafting this particular letter, all right? What should you have inside? Reviews the effectiveness of the internal controls, all right, at Railco, using evidence from the minutes of the latest Railco board meeting and any other suitable source, all right, and any other suitable source, okay. Perhaps on top of the board meeting, you might want to refer to other exhibits, okay, because it says here that, okay, you are going to use the evidence from the minutes of the latest Railco board meeting and any other suitable source. And what else do you have to do? You're supposed to justify that the chief executive of Railco is failing his fiduciary duties to the trustees of Railco. So you are supposed to justify, okay, the chief executive is actually not fulfilling his fiduciary duties to the trustees of Railco. So you need to actually find the evidence inside the exhibits for you to justify that he is actually not fulfilling his duty, okay, to the trustees of Railco. So you should actually know what actually the fiduciary duty, okay, to the trustees of Railco. So basically this is the knowledge that you need to know. So I did actually put down here basically what the duty is all about. Okay, so is their responsibility duty of due care. So duty of care also includes the responsibility to understand and evaluate companies' day-to-day operations and the terms of agreements. The duty of loyalty requires that a CEO always act in the best interest of the business shareholders. All right. Okay, you must remember this is your knowledge, your technical knowledge, and that he places that interest above his own in business decisions. So if you know that this is the fiduciary duties of the chief executive, once you actually refer to the exhibits, you should be able to identify that whether he is actually fulfilling that particular responsibility or he fails to actually perform his fiduciary duties. Okay. So here they're testing you on skepticism. So when it is skepticism, so the way that you are going to answer the question may not be as straightforward like evaluation, analysis, or communication skill. You need to have elements of probing, questioning, and challenging. All right. So for instance, you are saying that, on the surface, that chief executive director is actually fulfilling his fiduciary duties. However, all right, during the meeting, whatever that he has did or he has done, that he actually argues on certain things. So that's what it means by probing, question, and challenging. So you may say that on the surface that he's doing it, but actually, all right, the way that he perhaps discussed in a meeting shows that he is actually not performing his duty well, all right, that he fails. So this is what skepticism is, okay? You cannot just simply take whatever information that you have, straight away and just use it. So you need to be a little bit skeptical. I think you know what it means by skeptical. You think that you can trust, but you must put some reservation on it. All right? So this is what skepticism is all about. Okay, this one question. What does the question mean by actual and relative? Okay, I think this one we are referring to the previous question just now. Okay, you're talking about this one. Okay, this one, right? Oh dear. So basically you're talking about this, all right? So what it means by actual, that means there must be a result of the actual performance of Railco, and relative performance will be, you're talking about the performance that relates, to Railco. It can be coming from the budgeted figures, or it can be some comparison with some other informations. So basically that is what, relative performance is all about, So you will only know once you have read the exhibits what are the relative performance of that particular Railco, not just the actual ones. You are supposed to be relating it to other information, for the Railco over the last three years. So that means here it's telling you that there are comparisons that you have to actually make. I hope that's clear. All right. So if you have any question, can go further. Okay. How are we going to answer the review requirement? Okay. What does it mean by review? What's the word what's the word review? Review means? What? You're trying to do some kind of examination. All right. You're trying to actually looking at something. That means it's like how do I say? You're trying to look, when you review, you're trying to look whether there is actually any difference between last performance or this performance, because the result is already there. So you are trying to look at those particular results, okay, whether there is a significant change or not in terms of the performance, okay, between the actual and relative. And another question here, when I apply skepticism, I meet all three criteria, but in question, it is clear written to apply in questioning or probing how to overcome this problem. Okay, the moment when it comes to skepticism, the moment that you say that you agree on certain things up to certain extent, but you have some reservation, okay, why that you only agree up to certain extent, and after that you say that you are skeptical about the further information given because of what? Indirectly you are actually questioning. All right, so that is what skepticism is all about. I hope that is clear. All right. Basically the way that you write, okay, the moment that you start questioning, okay, indirectly you are doing the probing and the challenging as well. So it's the way that you put your sentence together is actually reflecting all the three together. Okay, so you don't have to worry. Okay, so as long as you are able to question, all right, indirectly when you question you are actually challenging, all right, and then indirectly you are probing into something. All right, so probing into something is actually from the sentence that you use. So indirectly you are trying to look into the matter, into the detail. Okay, so it's enough that if you are able to write a challenge whatever facts that's there, it's enough that you are actually demonstrating the skepticism skill. Okay, don't worry so much about that. I think you are there already. Okay. Okay, the next part that we are going to have here is actually question number 3, requirement number 3. It is now 2 months after the letter was sent by the NAA to the chairperson of the trust board. That's your task 2B that you had just now, all right? So if you notice that, okay, like the question that we had yesterday, September 2018, and the question that we are doing now, okay, you see that there's a flow of stories from requirement number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, all right, that you had yesterday under September 2018. And when you look at the scenario in this specimen 2 as well, okay, actually there's a relationship between requirement number 1, number 2, and number 3. There's a flow of stories there, okay, which basically is the task that you may face, okay, when you work later. All right. So here you, again, your role, you are non-executive chairperson of ad hoc subcommittee constituted by NCG of the Railco board. Okay. If you still remember the nomination and corporate governance, of the Rail Board, right? As a consequence of the NAA review and the recommendations of the Railco Transport, the Minister of Transport recommended that Chief Executive of Railco should be removed. If you still remember, okay, in the exhibits, in the overview, okay, there's one exhibits that actually have the CV of the potential new CEO, right? There are two CVs which you have to actually choose from, okay? So basically, this is what it is all about, okay? Now, actually, I think once you read this, you can relate it to your exhibits, okay? So, following the termination of the Chief Executive contract, the position has now been advertised, both nationally and internationally, and a person specification has been uploaded to the Railco website. In the last 2 weeks, 2 candidates have shortlisted, okay, has been shortlisted for final interview and a summary of their CVs being reviewed. Okay, that means you go through it, okay, by the nominations and the corporate governance committee of Railco. So it's mentioned here Exhibit 5, so it's easier for you to refer to. And bear in mind, all right, sometimes when requirements do not actually tell you which exhibits to refer to. So you have to be actually fast and smart enough to actually identify which exhibits is actually relevant to the question. Okay, when you compare, like today, we are doing the specimen, all right? It's not the actual exam, right? It's an example of how an actual exam should be. And when you compare it with September 2018, which is the actual exam, you will notice that they actually did not tell you, okay, which exhibits to refer to, all right? So you need to actually know which one is actually relevant for you. So what are you required to do? You're supposed to be following a review of the suitability of the shortlisted candidates against the outlined person specification. You have been asked by the chair of the NCG to do the following. So there's something that you have to do here. All right. You're supposed to be writing a report to whom? You're supposed to be writing a report to the chair of the NCG. All right. Which evaluates the suitability of the shortlisted candidates for the position of Chief Executive of Railco. All right. So what you're supposed to be doing here is you look into whether who is actually suitable. All right. The good between these particular 2 candidates. So you have to make some comparison here. All right. Who is actually fulfilling the requirements? Okay, and who is actually not fulfilling the requirements? Remember, they have already what? Uploaded. What is it that they have uploaded? This one. All right. What is it? Specification. So you may want to refer to Exhibit 5 to see the specification, all right, the person specification that has been uploaded, all right. So basically, you have to look at both CVs and you're supposed to be evaluating, okay, which one actually meets which, okay. So when it comes to evaluating indirectly, that you're supposed to do a little bit of analysis there, all right, okay, which particular candidate is actually suitable for the position. And the next thing that you need to do is, after you have evaluated them, okay, you have evaluate them, you're supposed to be recommending with justification which candidate you consider to be the most suitable for the position. So it depends on your whom you recommend and what kind of justification that you make. All right, this is crucial because you need to actually be able to evaluate, and when you evaluate these two candidates, it has to be candidates that actually match most of this particular specification that you already have. All right, so the one with that particular lesser meeting lesser specification path, usually logically that you will not be taking them. All right, so that's how you actually look at the CVs. You will try to go to the person. You will try to actually take the person who actually match the most of your specification that you have already outlined. Okay, so this one is demonstrating the commercial acumen. All right, okay, there are more questions here. Okay, some of you are still confused. Okay, with I presume that you are referring back to the skepticism skills. All right, so I will touch on that again later. Okay, some of you actually applied, have sat for your mock exam, and you did apply some. Okay, it takes you like longer hours. Okay, to read and to do the plan. So my question is that if you take actually longer to do your answer plan, does it help to reduce your writing? Okay, it should be that when you actually spend in doing a good answer plan, and hopefully that actually will reduce your time to write the answer, because I've tested this with my students, but usually I will ask them not to actually take more than 1 hour. Okay, since you're already asking this particular question, all right, let me just emphasize before I forget. Okay, not that young to remember everything. So before I forget, okay, try to practice doing your answer plan within 40 to 60 minutes only. Okay, so you don't have to actually write the full answer yet, but you try your best to actually do that particular answer time and reading the exhibits, and annotate within that particular 40 to 60 minutes. That will require some training. If you are used to doing it, you'll get faster and faster. But if you have not done it before, then you will struggle at the beginning. But at the end of the day, if you frequently use that particular answer plan and able to read it faster, it will help you a lot. All right. So you must remember you are only actually answering 80 marks question, because you are not actually answering the 20. The 20 is your professional skill, which is actually, I would consider that as a bonus point. Okay, if you answer your 80 correctly, indirectly you get a bonus of 20. Okay, that's how you look at your professional skills. So with that particular 80 marks, so it should take like lesser hours, lesser time for you to actually write. So another question here, Miss, if they're stated on which exhibit, we can add other exhibit information to the answer, or only use information from that exhibit. Okay, doesn't mean that when they tell you to refer to that exhibit, you are only referring to that exhibit only. If let's say along the way that you have read all the exhibits and you find that there are information from other exhibits that can actually be tied up with the exhibits that being referred to, by all means go for it. All right, because the more that you are able to integrate your answers from several exhibits, that means the more rich will be your answer and the better marks that you are going to get. Okay, so hopefully that you have learned that part doing the answer plan, and hopefully after we have discussed, okay, I'm leaving it to you to actually do the to do the answer plan. All right, okay. So I'm glad that answer plan actually helped some of you to do your mock exam. Okay, like I said, practice doing it, because the more that you practice, I think you will be able to do it within 40 to 60 minutes. If my student takes about, like, the first time that they did the answer plan, I think it took half of the 4 hours. It took them like 2 hours to just complete the answer plan, and end up they are only able to answer 2 requirements. All right. So eventually they have been practicing using that particular answer plan, so they are actually able to answer all the questions. Like I mentioned, don't be a perfectionist when you answer the question. As long as you have points that you can actually use to write and answer the requirements, and you are able to meet at least 2/3 of the marks, go for it and move on to the next particular requirement. All right, because if you are able to get 2/3, you already passed the whole exam. Okay, you can easily pass the exam. So the next requirement here is actually asking you to prepare a presentation, 2 presentation slides. All right. Accompanying notes to explain to the NCG the contribution which the chief executive should be expected to make. Okay, remember, expected to make. He has not made yet, right? So they are expected, okay? The chief executive is expected to make in terms of talent management to support the necessary change program required at Railco. So there are several things here. All right. So you are supposed to prepare 2 presentation slides and accompanying notes. First thing that you need to do is to explain, all right, to the NCG contribution which chief executive should be expected to make in terms of talent management to support the necessary change program required at Railco. So in this particular question, you need to know what talent management is all about. So I did actually put down here the technical knowledge, all right, on what talent management basically is. So you are supposed to be relating it to these particular requirements, okay, by explaining the contribution that the chief executive should be expected to make in terms of talent management, and to support necessary change program required at Railco. So basically 2 things here: contribution in terms of talent management and supporting the necessary change program required at Railco. Okay, the talent management is supposed to support the necessary change program at Railco. This communication skill, the moment that you see that is, okay, prepare the 2 presentation slides and make sure that you have your bullet points inside those slides, and after every slide, that's where you should be having your accompanying notes. Okay, don't ever have the slides prepared first. That means slide 1 and then slide 2, then only you have your accompanying notes. If you look at the actual PowerPoint, because this is a task that you do at a workplace, okay, if you actually refer to your PowerPoint, when you prepare slides, where are you going to have the notes? It's actually immediately after the slide, isn't it? So the same thing must actually be performed in your exam. So you have 2 slides, slide number 1, and then under your slide number 1, you should be having accompanying notes. Okay. So your slides number 2, then you have another accompanying notes for the slide number 2. Okay, what are the things that you may want to put inside? Okay, before you are able to actually look into, okay, all those further information, you need to know the technical knowledge of what talent management is. Once you know what talent management is, then you'll be able to associate it with what is expected, okay, out of the chief executive in terms of that particular talent management. So basically, talent management refers to anticipation of required human capital for an organization and the planning to meet those particular needs. So talent management is the science of using strategic human resource planning to improve business value and to make it possible for companies and organizations to reach their goals. So if you actually know this, you'll be able to actually explain the contribution that chief executive can actually is expected to make in terms of, okay, strategizing on its human resource, okay, or human capital in order to achieve their goals. But here is not achieving goals. Remember, here is to support necessary change program required at Railco. Okay, so this is the technical knowledge that you have. All right, basically this is the technical knowledge that you have. All right, so in the context of this particular requirement, they're not talking about goals here. They're talking about supporting necessary program change. It wouldn't differ much, right? So as long as the chief executive are able to make sure that they know, okay, the type of necessary skills that the employees must have, okay, in order to support that change program, then that would be the one that you are going to actually write down. Okay, so from general into specific requirement. Okay, so this is where you have to be very careful. Why? Because different case study would actually be applying this technical knowledge differently, but the basic concept is still the same. What's the basic concept? Basic concept is what? Talent management is able to anticipate the required human capital for an organization and the planning to meet those needs. So basically here, okay, chief executive is expected to actually anticipate, okay, the human capital that is required, okay, for Railco to execute this particular change program. So I hope you are clear on that. Any questions so far? No questions, that's good. All right, hang in there. Okay. So the story for this particular question actually continues. If you notice, it is now 3 months later, all right, a new chief executive has been appointed and is working closely with the board of directors and the Railco Trust Board to improve performance. You are an internal auditor working for the Audit and Risk Committee of Railco. The new chief executive asked the financial controller of Railco to produce a spreadsheet which analyzes the ticket sales and rail usage by station within the BLAN rail network, and which also analyzes the estimated levels of fraud occurring across the Railco network. So if you notice that this particular question, all right, under specimen number 2 is very much related to governance, internal control and risk, all right? So you are required to review, because here you have been asked by the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee to review the findings of the financial controller, all right, and present a report which requires you to do the following. So there's A and B in this particular requirement, okay? There's A and B. So make sure that when you answer this requirement number 4, your report should comprise of A, and B. That means you're supposed to be answering this first under A. All right, it should be in your report A, and then it should also be in your report the recommendation down here with justifications. That means your report will have two parts. That means when you answer this question number 4, that means this A and B should be under the same report. All right, you don't break it. Why? Because when you're asked to prepare this particular report, which requires you to do the following has got two things here. One is to analyze the information presented in the spreadsheet produced by the financial controller, questioning any assumptions he may have made. All right, perhaps if you think that you don't agree with how he's preparing it, that's where you may want to question. All right, and explain the implication of the findings for Railco. So under A, you're supposed to be analyzing the information, and you're supposed to be questioning any assumptions, okay, he may have made. And then after that, you're supposed to be explaining the implication of the findings for Railco. So you need to refer to the exhibits that relates to this requirement, all right, and to see what are the information that you can actually use, okay, what this spreadsheet is actually giving you, okay, and then what are the information that you can actually further question on the assumptions made, and then any implications of the findings for the Railco. Skepticism skills again, all right, so be careful in the way that you write, okay, so that the way that you write should actually reflect skepticism skills, all right. Next would be okay, before I move on, okay, let's answer some question. Write answer plan in answer booklet too. Yes, you can do that, and it's good that you do that because it gives the first impression to the marker that you are a person who actually plans your work well, right? And you just don't jump into doing things ad hoc. Okay, you do some planning, so that's a good first impression, right? Yes, before writing the actual answer, definitely. Okay. How to have enough time to plan all answers and then write out. Okay. If you are able to actually do your planning, okay, try to divide your time. Let's say between 40 to 60 minutes, right? Let's say you have 4 requirements or 5 requirements. Divide those time into the number of requirements that you have. Okay. So as you read your requirements, I don't think so you'll be reading your requirements and spending the whole of 40 minutes reading it. All right. Definitely it will take like just about 10 to 15 minutes to actually read your requirements. Okay. Or it may be less. And after that, you'll be continuing doing reading your exhibits. Okay. Speed reading would actually help you if you're able to do speed reading. Okay. And if you have done your reading and you were to find some points as you read, why you need to read requirement first, like I mentioned earlier, once you have requirement in mind, you will do active readings. The moment you start reading exhibit number 1, you'll be associating some of the information that you read there with the requirements that needed that information there. All right, so automatically you just put down, okay, you jot down what is it that what I mean is jotting down means you annotate. All right, what are the possible information or points that you can actually put inside your answer plan? All right, so if let's say you don't really have time, okay, worst case scenario, you don't really have time to put it in your answer booklet, okay, you can actually do your planning where? At your requirement itself. Okay, that means you have to scribble here and there, okay, at the requirement, okay, so that you'll be able to actually later answer that particular questions. But in the booklet, you don't have an answer plan which you can actually disclose to your marker. Okay. You can still do that. Okay, that's the worst case scenario, especially when you don't have actually time, okay, to actually write a separate answer plan. But at least, for example, here, okay, let's say, okay, I have it here, okay. So time's running out. So I have not finished actually having all the answer plans for all the questions. So as I read the exhibits, what I do is that I'll just jot down whatever I feel from the exhibit will help me. So I'll have like, uh, for example, okay, I may want to write something down here for, like in this case, okay, I'm supposed to be recommending to the audit committee with justification suitable measures or safeguards, okay, which could be implemented to reduce the level of fraud occurring on the network. So I may want to actually put down what are my recommendation. Basically here, okay, then after that, wrong spelling, okay, it's okay, okay, then I may put down, okay, the type of recommendation that I have, for example, okay, like this, whatever it is, just to show you an example, instead of doing an answer plan. So I've already put down, okay, at the side here for recommendation, and I may be having like the same thing, all right. What will be the possible justification that I will have over here? And I will actually jot down here, okay, what will be my, okay, what will be my measure? Okay, so instead of having the plan that is actually in the booklet, okay, I can have it scattered inside my requirements here. But it'll be a little bit messy, okay? And definitely people, your marker wouldn't know whether you have planned or not your answer. But if you have a good plan, okay, even if it's not being put inside the booklet, marker will know whether you have actually done your planning or not from the way that you write. That means the flow of thoughts of your points from one particular points to another points. That means there's connection between it, and the flow of thoughts there is clear, and it's easy to understand what you wrote. All right, so you can actually do that as well. But remember, planning is always crucial. Okay, always put things down. Okay, so that, okay, why do I say that doing this answer plan is very crucial? Before I forget, okay, remember this is 4 hours exam. I can't remember whether I've mentioned it to you yesterday or not. All right, this is a 4 hour exam, and then remember you are used to be doing 3 hour and 15 minutes exam, and you are already exhausted. Just imagine that you have to sit for another extra, all right, 45 minutes, okay, which actually will make your sit, okay, very hot. You can't just sit still anymore. You feel like, giving everything away, and you feel like going out from that particular exam hall. You're already exhausted. And once you reach that particular last hour, definitely you are tired. That's what my students told me, that, okay, having experience of doing 3 hours and suddenly they have to do the 4 hours exam, the last 1 hour, they have lost their stamina to think, especially. So by having an answer plan being done earlier at the early stage, and you have jotted down all these possible points that you want to put in, okay, it helps you to finish up answering the question until the end. Because they said, Madam, for the last 1 hour, I couldn't think anymore. Most of us are so tired and we can't think anymore. Because like in Malaysia, that last hour is actually between 6 to 7 o'clock evening. Okay, that's actually the time for you to actually go out and play football or whatever it is. Okay, it's not the time for you to actually do your exam. But unfortunately, Okay, the timing falls during that hour here in Malaysia because they start the exam at 3 until 7, all right, from 3 to 7 o'clock. So having an answer plan and all the points that you have here is actually helping them towards the last hour, where they are not able to think anymore. At least with the points being written down, they are still able to write and finish up answering their questions. So that's the reason why, okay, it's very crucial that you have your answer plan at the early stage. All right. Okay. So basically, some of you are asking how much average time should be spent on planning of one requirement. Okay. Let's say you have 4 requirements, but for this specimen, you are having how many requirements? You are having 5 requirements. So you are only giving yourself 40 minutes. Let's say you are giving yourself 40 minutes. So each requirement should only take you about 8 minutes. But the most that you can extend is that, all right, this is based on 5 requirements. Okay, so if let's say you only have 4 requirements, that means the more time that you are able to actually spend for one question, like 10 minutes. Okay, and at most that you go for is 60 minutes. Don't go beyond that. All right, because it will take up the time for you to actually answer all the questions. So what you want is when you submit your SBL your SBL answers, you should be submitting a complete SBL answers. It means that you have answered all the requirements that is actually being asked. So it's very crucial for you to actually pass the exam. Okay, so most of my students who actually fail the exam, okay, actually they do not have time to complete the exam requirements. All right, they are not able to actually answer all. So that's where they actually, miss out most of the marks and they are not able to pass. And even if that they fail, okay, most of the marks is actually between 40 to 48. So I think having to fail 48, 47 is not nice, and I know it's heartbreaking. You know that there's a little bit more to go for you to pass, so if possible try to avoid it, okay, and try to make sure that you fulfill all the requirements. Even if that you get 50 is good enough that you passed, okay, that matters, you passed. Okay, you are asking 40 minutes including reading time? Yes. Okay, so try practicing reading fast, that means speed reading. And to read, okay, if possible, okay, I will show you how you can actually psychologically try to break your exhibits, all right, to make sure that you don't feel tired to read the whole of that particular exhibits. Okay, so try to break your paragraphs, okay, so that you are able to see small pieces of paragraph and it's manageable. That is psychology. All right, so let's just go through our question number 5 first. All right, you are a project manager now working for the Director of Projects and Infrastructure of Railco. The Director of Projects and Infrastructure is putting forward a proposal to the Board of Directors of Railco for a project to invest in an online ticket sales system. The project should be fully operational within 12 months, but would need to be undertaken by an external firm of developers, as Railco does not possess the internal expertise. However, Railco could manage the project. Okay, required. You have been asked by the Director of the Projects and Infrastructure to write a business case to the board in which you will justify why the investment in online ticket sales could assist Railco in producing detailed and timely customer data to assist in customer relationship management, right? So you are supposed to be writing a business case. So you need to know what a business case should be, okay, the content of that particular business case. So I've already put actually down here an example of the business case, okay. So this is the technical knowledge that you must know and need to be applied in this context, all right? Because why? This first requirement is asking you to justify why investing in online ticket could assist Railco in producing detailed and timely customer data to assist in customer relationship management. Okay. In this particular requirement as well, you need to know what's the purpose of customer relationship management is all about, right? It's about what? Trying to get more customers, and once you have got them, you should be able to actually retain them and make sure they continue to use your service. That's what the intention of customer relationship management is all about. All right. So if it's a retail company, so you should actually try your best to make them buy your product, and once they have bought, you try to retain them as your customer, and you, if possible, you want to extend their purchase. It means that if you have other products, you want them to not just buy one product but later become your loyal customer and continuously buying other products from you. That's actually the relation, the purpose of the CRM for companies that actually sell products. All right. So in this case, it's a service. The same concept is still the same. All right. So you want them to use your service. You want them to retain them as your loyal customer who will continuously use your service. And if ever in the future that Railco wants to introduce other services or new services, you definitely would want them to use your service. All right. So that's the purpose of customer relationship management. So that's the principle of it. So you need to actually, this is technical knowledge, but in this case, you need to actually tie it back to Railco. Okay, to what extent that this particular investment in online ticket would help Railco in producing detailed, timely customer data to assist in customer relationship management. So basically and logically, you know that is to make them use, retain them, and make them use your other services. Okay, so what kind of data do you think that might help you in that? So basically to know who your data of your customers, their frequency in using your system, okay, your railway network. And then definitely you'll know how much, okay, the type of tickets that they buy. So indirectly, okay, with that particular information, you should be able to offer them something better, isn't it? To make sure that they continue to use it, maintain to be your loyal customer, and later if you invest, later if you, let's say you introduce new services, they will be the first person or the first people to actually use your service. So that's basically what it is. So two things here, your business case, okay, you need to know the structure of your business case because you're supposed to write a business case, and this justification that you have here should be inside your business case, like I might put here, all right? Okay, so the introduction, so you must have like, you know, basically this is what it is, but since you are just asked to justify, so perhaps this is the only one that you may want to have here, okay? So the next thing will be to produce a project initiation document, which could be used by Railco to assist in planning the implementation of an online ticket sales system. So like what we did yesterday is just to actually critically evaluate the PID that has been prepared by the junior staff, but for this particular question, you are supposed to be producing that particular project initiation document. So technical knowledge wise, you need to know what are the elements that should be inside your project initiation documents, the components of PID. So that will be your, basically your technical knowledge. So without a technical knowledge on PID, you will not be able to really answer this question well, right? So having good technical knowledge, okay, on PID would actually assist you. So as compared to what you had yesterday in your September 2018, okay, most of the question in this particular specimen, okay, requires you to have a lot of technical knowledge in specific areas, okay, as compared to yesterday, all right? Not many questions actually testing you on technical knowledge. There are some, but not as much as today. So indirectly, it says that, okay, September 2018 should be an easier question where you can actually apply your logical sense, right? So let's say if you have a question or requirement that you wouldn't know what it is all about, okay, you don't have the technical knowledge on it, but you know the logical explanation for that, okay, by all means, just answer that according to your logical sense. Make sure it makes sense, okay? So you can use some common sense. Some question, yes, you can just use your common sense because you are relating it to your daily lives, and if it's daily life, that's what you do. So it's logical to do it that way. So in the context of this, the requirement, okay, that you have that enables you to apply that common logical sense, then you use it. So that's what SBL is all about, okay? Not so much tied up with technical knowledge, but a lot of logical sense can actually be applied. For example, if let's say I don't know what a business case is all about, I can actually gauge, okay, how it should look like, right? Why? Because from this requirement, it's actually asking me to justify why investment in online sales could assist Railco in producing detailed and timely customer data to assist in customer relationship management. So I can just use my common sense. Why? Relate it to the railway stations that you have in your country. Okay, how is it now? Okay, is it already online? What was it before it was online? So this is something that you can actually relate it. So for you, would you prefer it to be online or would you prefer it to be manually purchased? So these are your common sense, something that you can tie back to your daily life as well. So if you don't really know much, you can still use your common sense here. But when it comes to PID, you need to know a good PID components of it. So it's quite difficult if you actually don't understand what the components of a PID. But if you know the principle of PID, that is for planning, so roughly you can put some informations that you know about the PID, because PID is actually a communication tool, okay, for project management. So how are you all so far? Ready to go? Still on planning, all right? Miss, the good planning is it 40-minute reading time, 40 minutes to write the answer plan, and remaining 160 minutes to write the answer? Okay. If you ask me personally, I would say that, okay, you should only be taking like the 40 minutes include both going through the requirements and your exhibits and doing your answer plan. All right. So your answer plan need not to be like, written like nicely or what. As long as you can jot down some points, okay, on that paper and help you to answer the question, that's good enough. All right. Because why? You need the remaining 200 minutes to actually answer the question. But let's say if you take 60 minutes, 1 hour at most, all right, for you to actually do your answer plan. Then you have a remaining of 180 minutes to do your answering, all right? So you were saying that, okay, some of you said that when you read Kaplan book, they mentioned before the topic that you will not be examined about the preparation of PID. Okay, basically what they meant by the preparation of PID is that sometimes you may not be given a PID, all right? Because remember, this is specimen, all right? So in the specimen before the actual question was actually being given, okay, before the actual exam, September and December 2018, all right? Okay, most ACCA is actually trying to gauge what would be the possible, okay, type of question for the SBL, all right? So most of the time, okay, even if you don't have to prepare for the PID, you need to know how it's being prepared. Because why you need to know the components? Because in the context of SBL, you are supposed to be evaluate, someone else will be preparing it, and you need to know whether what he or she has prepared is correct or not. All right. So eventually you need to know how is it being prepared. All right. So understanding how it's being prepared and what components that should be inside actually helps you to answer the question. So I hope that answers your question. All right, that's done. Okay, we are done with this particular going through our requirements. Okay, the reason why, okay, I go through with you this particular specimen number 2 is that, okay, if you notice that, okay, previously I did mention about how you are supposed to be doing some analysis for all the questions. And if you notice that from specimen 1 to 3, and then other specimen 1 to 3, which is not the actual one, okay, they do have requirements running from 3 requirements to 5 requirements. And then looking into September 2018 and then December 2018, all right, September you have 4 requirements and December 2018 have got 3 requirements, all right, even though they have breakdowns, but the main requirements they have 3 and then the September have got 4. And chances of March 2019 to be having 5 requirement is there. All right, why? Because in that particular 3 specimens, they have 3, 4, and 5. 3 and 4 has already been tested in September 2018, and then that's 4 requirements, and then December 2018 you have 3 requirements. All right, so the one that has not been tested is the one with the 5 requirements. So I'm not saying that I'm trying to spot or whatever, but just to prepare you that they can ask 5 requirements. But if you are asking me, 5 requirements is actually much better, okay, in terms of spreading the questions, because you will have a shorter, smaller marks, I would say, okay. And when you have small marks, not much, it's manageable as compared if you have like, if they actually lump 20 marks question for you or lump 25 marks question for you, which is not that easy for you to actually break it and find how many points that you should actually write. So that's where the advantage of having the 5 requirement is. If you notice that basically all the question is actually carrying 20 marks and 18 marks, and here 24, but it's a breakdown of 2, so it's small number of marks, so it's still manageable. Here you have 8, right, even though the total is 24. So if you have up here it's only 18, so it's only 8 and 6 marks. So in terms of the expectations of your points inside, it wouldn't be as demanding, all right, so it's manageable. If I were you, I would be happy to have the 5 questions requirements, because why? So it's all small, not much marks, so I can actually plan my answer much better. All right. So remember, when you plan your answer, have a look at the requirements. Don't put too much points and don't put too little. All right. And how are you going to know whether you should have more points or little points? Is the marks that you have here. Okay. That actually will guide you on how much you have to write. So always go by the marks. All right. Don't write excessively, because once you write excessively, all right, you are not going to get any extra marks. So let's go to our exhibits. Oh, sorry, this is just an example of, okay, an example of a PID. Okay, I put it here because why? Because it's just to guide me on, if I were asked to prepare, at least I know what should be inside my PID. Okay, basically this is some sort like my answer plan. All right, a cheating kind of answer plan, I would say, just cut and paste here. Okay, but for you, you have to really know what should be inside that particular answer plan of yours. So any questions so far? I hope you're clear. 5 minutes break again. All right. Do you have a break in exam? So just joking. All right. So, well, okay, we move on to the next one. All right. Okay, let us run through this fast. The reason being, okay, there's a lot of, I would say, advice that I may want to give you, and there's some that, okay, that I want to share with you from the past experience of your friends here. Okay, so at least after that we have gone through these particular exhibits, okay, we will talk about, okay, how we are going to prepare your final preparation for your exam. At least some tips that may actually help you. All right. So how's your preparation so far? Okay, for your March 2019 exam. I hope you already know your technical knowledge, at least, okay, if you don't know in detail, at least you must know the concepts and the principles of those particular technical knowledge. But, okay, for the topics that requires you to know exactly the function of certain committees, things like that, I think that one you should actually remember what it is, because all these particular areas that requires you to remember the rules and the function is not something that is logical. All right, it's facts and figures. Those some a little bit of common sense can be applied, but basically it is based on facts. Okay, so I hope you are ready to look into your exhibits. Okay, we have now, it's like 10:39. Sorry, I don't know what yours is, like 3 hours later, but my time here is already like 10:39 p.m. Right? So it's about like you will be starting at you have started at 6 o'clock. So basically it's like 7 something, 7. Okay, 7:39 I would say. Okay, in your place if you are in Pakistan. But some of you perhaps are from other places, okay, not just from Pakistan, I presume. Okay, let's continue. All right. 7:39 in Pakistan. Oh, thank you, Ali. Okay, shall we start, Ali? All right. Okay, let's go to your Railco, the exhibit number 1. Basically, this is talking about the background of Railco, getting you there on time in comfort. Wow, what a nice motto here. Okay, so let's talk about the mission. is to provide high quality, okay, high quality, efficient, cost effective rail service. All right. So the vision is to become the world leader in providing reliable, profitable, and safe train passenger services in a climate which embraces new technology and diversity of idea. All right. See, it says here which embraces new technology and diversity of ideas. But when we read the requirements just now, okay, they did mention about the online ticketing, things like that, okay, how they, okay, perhaps that's one of the things that they want to do, okay, so that they actually fulfill their mission, how they should be embracing the new technology. So you have information about the board of Railco, okay, who is actually responsible for the strategic direction of Railco, all right? Okay. It is responsible for supervising the operational activities of the business and providing the leadership and strategic direction. So basically, this is what the responsibility of the Railco board is. Okay, you know that they're supposed to be supervising the operational activities and providing leadership and strategic direction. So the composition of the so Chief Executive reports directly to Minister for Transport, okay, on the leadership and long-term performance and success. That means they are reporting to the Minister of Transport, okay. The board comprises of, okay, these are the composition of the board. They have non-executive chair, right? They have chief executive, which is executive director, finance director, executive. Okay, here is the director of the project and infrastructure, also executive. Then they have Phillips non-executive, non-executive. All right. All right. So wow, they have many non-executive. All right. What do you think of having more non-executive director? Would it be better for this particular particular organization? Perhaps. Why? Because they're dealing with public money. All right. So basically, they only have like they have like 3 executive directors in the board, right? The rest are all actually non-executive director. And here they did mention to you, they did give you when they were actually appointed. So how significant it is, it depends on what actually that you want to put down inside your answer later on. Okay. So here actually I put down, okay, it helps you to answer the agency relationship rights and responsibility. So where you're supposed to be identify the principal in Railco, identify agents in Railco, and you're supposed to be explain the relationship between them, discuss their principal and agents' rights and responsibilities. Okay, always remember, okay, if you know what principal is agent is, if there are, you found, okay, the parties that have got that relationship, it means that they are having the agency relationship there, right? So it need not to be just between the government and the trust board, okay? It can be between other players as well in the organization. As long as there's a principle, that means instruction coming from that principal and the agent is going to execute it. If you have that relationship, so those are the parties actually applying the agency relationship. So you need to actually spell out the rights and responsibilities there. Okay. And then I put here the role and the value of NED. Okay. Knowledge on the role and values. What good can this NED bring to Railco? So perhaps you may want to tie it up to the objective of Railco, all right, or the mission and the vision of the Railco. Okay, whether this particular executive director would actually able to play his role and in creating the values that you will actually get from the NED, all right. So you need to know actually what role NED plays. If you know the role, and you'll be able to know what good that you are going to get from the function of NED. Our executive committee, okay, basically operational management. Executive committee is chaired by chief executive and comprises of finance director, director of projects, and 5 other executive managers. Okay, this is the executive committee. Okay, they tell you when they were appointed, all right, and how long they have actually been in that particular position. Okay, that also matters. Okay, sometimes when you are too long in the position, you may not be able to contribute new ideas. Okay, but sometimes you may need the old timers, I would say, to be in that particular board because they have the experience, okay, in that organization, and they know the in and outs of what's happening in the organization, and you may get some information of the past from this particular, okay, directors. Okay, so there are pros and cons there. But when you talk about the corporate governance, okay, regulations, you need to actually not having direct members of the board too long holding the position inside as a board member. Okay, so that way you can read more on the governance. So basically they have this board committees, okay, 4 board committees, okay, and explaining to you their tasks in monitoring, okay, the integrity. Audit committee monitors the audit process and reviews internal control, basically, which include risk management. Remuneration committee, okay, to determine the remuneration for the directors. Okay, that means the intention is to provide independence of decision-making process for remuneration and incentive schemes. And you have this particular nomination and corporate governance committee, right? And then as you read through, this committee reviews the size, structure, and composition of the board and committees. So whether to have more, to have less, okay, and basically who should be inside, okay. So these are the committee that will actually do that. And then basically is the role of the trust board. Okay, it's an independent statutory body. Okay, they are actually giving gets the mandate to actually to look over the Railco. All right. So it comes from the government of Beeland. Okay. They have 10 members inside, all appointed, okay, by Minister of Transport. They have fixed term up to 3 years. Okay. So they are actually accountable to the Railco Trust Board. So perhaps you may want to look here. Okay. Remember, they're only supposed to be holding the position for actually 3 years, but some perhaps you may have it more than that. So this particular exhibits actually would help you to answer requirement number 1. Why do I say that it helps you to answer requirement number 1 is because, all right, from there you'll be able to see this particular agency relationship, because it's all about governance inside there. And then at the same time, okay, if not much, maybe a little on this particular role of the non-executive directors. But basically, you need to know the general role of the non-executive directors for you to be able to apply it in the context of Railco. Okay. So remember, okay, what does Rexco do? Okay, if you still remember that one of the requirements did ask you to review the actual and relative performance. And this part here, I would say, okay, this part here did mention that, okay, this particular transport sets range of performance targets each year and holds board to account for its effective and efficient use of the funds. So basically, they are the one who sets the target, and Railco must actually execute it and make sure that they actually meet the target that has already been set by the transport. All right. So this part here is actually telling you, and it may not be related directly, but indirectly it relates to the requirements that actually ask you to review. Which one will that be? It will be this one. All right. So indirectly, it relates to this actual and relative performance of Railco, right? Okay. So I may want to actually put it in blue, perhaps that's why it relates to that. Okay. So what next? The second exhibits. Okay. So this particular second exhibit is actually, okay, gives you an insight of issues facing Railco. So from this particular report, okay, you may find that, okay, issues that has been highlighted on the problem that is actually being faced by Railco, okay. Because why? This is actually coming from the latest customer survey results, and it may be related to the another exhibits that talks about the information of the passenger survey result. You can tie it together later, right? And this particular exhibits, all right, when you look at it, it's kind of like quite long for you to read. Okay, remember that just now I asked you to actually break it, okay? But here you have 2 columns, so it wouldn't be okay, kind of like too long-winded for you to actually read. But if let's say you have one long passage of about the background of the company and it runs up to 2 pages, what you can do is like, okay, for every paragraph, for every paragraph, what you should do is actually you should actually breaking it down, okay, into smaller fraction, okay. And then when you have this, you break it into a smaller section like this, so that it looks manageable. All right, psychologically it's like, oh, it's just a short paragraph, it's not long. But what you can do, okay, while you're doing this, okay, at least when you read this, okay, this particular paragraph talks about what, Okay, it's actually the latest. Okay, annual customer survey results for Railco will not make comfortable readings for its chief executive John Rose, who predicted this last time. Yeah, the future is bright for Railco. So basically here they are talking about, okay, that, okay, the chief executive is actually predicting something that is totally opposite than the reality. All right. So this is what's happening in this particular paragraph. Perhaps you want to jot down. Okay. You may want to jot down. So I may be jotting it down by typing, but you may have to jot it down by writing. Okay. So basically it's about, okay, wrong prediction. Okay. Okay. So basically, oh dear. Okay. All right. So that means I've made my conclusion at the side here, so that later on, if I were to actually use it for my write-up, I can just pick up from here. So I don't have to reread what is in this particular paragraph. Okay. So it's good that if you are able to do that and make some conclusion at the side like this, okay, so that it's easier for you to actually pick up your points. Okay, so what does this particular paragraph like talks about? All right, Railco, the company responsible for the transport of over 50% of the billions commuters to their daily work, all right, appears to be losing support of its loyal customers. So basically I can say that Railco lost support. What else can I say? And then I may want to actually although, okay, this is despite an increasing population in Bilan and significant levels of government investment in its development. So although it has invested in new trains over the last 5 years, commuter trains are still crowded. All right. So significantly, it has failed to invest in online ticket purchasing system, and commuters are increasingly unhappy. So basically, what you can mention here is, okay, they are not investing in online ticket. Okay, make sure you write it by the side. So I'm just showing you the example of how you can actually break it down, and you make conclusion at the side. Okay, this is how you actually read, okay, your exhibits when it's actually too long. Okay, break it out into small pieces and make a conclusion at the end here. All right, so you can actually go through. Okay, we have to be fast. It's actually almost like 11 o'clock here, and I presume it's almost like 8 o'clock there. Okay, so basically these are the issues that you can actually find that's happening with Railco. One thing that you have to be very remember, one of the requirement mentioned about the fiduciary duties of the CE just now. Okay, basically his prediction was wrong, right? He thought it's going to be better and brighter, but actually at the end of the day it's not. Okay, so it has already been reported in this particular newspaper. So you may want to take that points in, okay, when you want to do your plan later on. So basically here, Railco, they're saying that Railco actually received grants from government, so they're supposed to be using that particular grant wisely, okay, and make sure that they're able to give services to the public, okay, effectively and efficiently. right? So from line by line, you are supposed to actually do you should be breaking it into smaller paragraphs. Same goes here, all right? Definitely here, and make your conclusion at the side. At least you have informations that you can easily use later on. Okay. So next exhibit, that is your exhibit number 3. Okay, talks about the passenger survey results. All right, it talks about the passenger survey results. For how long? For 3 years. Okay, for the last 3 years. That means remember that when we read the exhibit number 1, where they mentioned that the transport is actually setting the target performance for Railco. So basically this is what they have targeted, all right, for the 2016 target growth on 2015. That means from 2015 and 2016, there should be an increment of 3% for the overall satisfaction with the journey. And satisfaction with ticket buying facilities should be an addition of increment of 2%. Availability of staff should be an increment of 5%. Helpfulness and attitude should be 2%. Punctuality and reliability of service should be 5%, and value for money or for price of the ticket should be 2%. Okay, to know whether, okay, you remember you're supposed to be reviewing, okay, the actual and relative results. Okay, basically this is the actual and comparing it relatively to this particular target. So since this particular target is 2015 to 2016, so your comparison should be this one. Okay, so you need to find the percentage of increment or decrement. And from there, only then you'll be able to actually say whether Railco has actually met the target. All right, so that's where your comment should be coming in. All right, so basically you should do some analysis here. And then at the same time as well, all right, what you have here is the examples of customer feedback comments, okay, and they are in the form of words, so it's not figures, so you may need to analyze this as well. Okay, that means here you are analyzing the comments. Okay, this is the evidence of dissatisfactions on Railco services, so you may want to actually use this, all right, as you analyze the figures. All right, whether there's increase or decrease, perhaps the reason for it may be coming from this particular feedback comments. And remember, you're supposed to be actually comparing also. Okay, if you still remember the requirements. Okay, so if you can still remember the requirements, here that you are supposed to be evaluating implications of the findings of the passenger survey results. All right, so you already know the percentage of the actual results as compared to the targeted results. So you should be able to evaluate the implication of that, and at the same time the reviews of the actual and relative performance of Railco over the last three years. But in this particular question, they did not mention about any other competitors, isn't it? All right, so basically when you look at the exhibits, they did give you the competitor performance analysis. So basically you need to actually compare, all right, why that I'm only looking into, why do you think that I'm only looking into 2015 and 16? And I'm not looking into that 2014. Why do you think that is so? Remember, the one that's actually been given up here, okay? The information that's been given up here is actually 2015 to 2015 to 16, okay? And then that's the reason why I'll also be looking at the actual one from 2015 and 16. And when making comparison, okay, with the competitors, okay, I will actually be looking at how actually Relco is actually performing, okay, as compared to other competitors. Okay, there are some questions here. Okay, what's the major difference between the vision and mission? That's what your friend is actually asking. All right. Okay. When it comes to a vision, all right, vision means what is it that you want to have in the future for Relco, all right? So the ultimate end of what you want for Relco is actually the vision. And in order for you to achieve this particular vision, you need to have some uh, vehicles for you to actually move to this particular vision. That is your mission. Only if you provide high quality, efficient, and cost effective rail service to all your passengers, then this is your vehicles for you to actually achieve your vision. All right. So that's actually the difference between your mission and your vision. All right. I hope that's clear. I'm trying to run as fast as possible here. Okay. So basically, this particular exhibits actually allows you to actually make that particular comparison in answering the requirement number 2. So most of what is actually being given here is actually can be utilized for you to actually answer requirement number 2. So make full use of it, all right? Because why? There are some comparison and they did give you some notes down here, okay, on the difference between each and every of this particular information and which one is much more compatible for you to compare it with Relco, all right? Why? Because you have two types of state-owned rail company, that is ANR and Sealand. And you may want to look at the difference and which one is more comparable. So you may want to do that. And if you look at this, all right, looking at the notes, you may find that this is compatible, but you can also compare to Sealand, okay, which is much more advanced in that sense, okay, where they have already online ticket investment starting from 2010, and for then this particular neighboring country, they just started 2015. So that's where you can see a better comparison between these two as compared to this Sealand, but Sealand would give you a good information for you to actually explain about the situation in Railco. So you can actually use this. What do you have here? So in the exhibits 4, I would say, all right, this is board minute meetings. So in this particular meeting, all right, okay, like I mentioned to you just now, this is a very long exhibits, and then it's going to be like tiring to look at those words. So basically what you can do, like I said just now, break it down into small pieces. Okay, break it down into manageable paragraphs like this. All right, why? So psychologically, all right, when you look at a smaller paragraph like this, okay, make some, I would say, conclusion that you have here. all right, on this particular part. That would actually help you to manage your answers better, all right. So have some conclusion here, and same goes to here, all right. So in exam, you may not be able to actually conclude and find most of the points, but if you are able to find the points that is actually relevant, by all means do it. Okay, I'm not expecting you to use this particular exhibits intensely until that you have to use every single words inside here, all right. So what you need to do is just pick up important points, all right. So like what I'm doing here, basically at this particular paragraph, all right. Okay, once you break it here, all right, I am actually putting down my notes as this side. After I've already highlighted, okay, some of this, actually, this particular paragraph talks about evidence for failure of fiduciary of duties. So what I highlighted will be the fiduciary duties that's relevant to this particular case, all right? Because different case will be different type of fiduciary duties, okay? The type of activities. So in this context, the fiduciary duties here, okay, the examples are here. So that's why I've already put down here. So I'm going to use this to answer my requirement number 3. All right, so it's requirement number 3. Let's go back to requirement. Okay, basically that's what you have to do as well. If you can't remember, go back to your requirements, and then after that okay, so confirm that I'm going to use it to actually look at this particular fiduciary duties failure. So I go back to that same exact exhibits. So it's long. So as long as I'm able to pick up some, and here from this particular part of audit and risk committee, okay, I find information on ineffective internal controls, some of the example of the ineffective internal controls here. So I may want to use it to answer that requirement as well. All right. And then the next thing that I have here will be, okay, as well on ineffective internal control, because this particular requirement, okay, did ask on the fiduciary failure and at the same time did ask on the internal control. And at this part down here, see, I have here also evidence of failure of fiduciary duties. And I also have here, okay, my conclusion that I can find that from this particular section, there's evidence for failure of fiduciary duties, and same goes to this part over here. So I already have points that I would consider as enough for me to actually answer that particular requirement. Why do you think that I consider it as enough? Because when you look at the marks, right? It's only how many marks? So failing here, effectiveness of internal control, not just that you are reviewing here and you justify the chief executive is failing the fiduciary duties, it's only eight marks. So I think that's more than enough. Okay, so the points that you actually got there is actually more than enough for you to actually answer that particular question. Okay, let's move on to this particular exhibit number 5. Okay, in this particular exhibit number 5, all right, this this particular part over here is actually the outline person specification. That means, okay, for you to actually recruit or hire new chief executive, okay, they must actually fulfill this particular specification or requirements. This is the criteria of CEO RELCO is going for. All right, so when you look at these particular exhibits, remember you must actually compare this, okay, with the CB. So you need to do some simple analysis to see who meets the criteria outlined by RELCO. All right. So you have these two. So just a simple analysis, whom actually meets the requirement. So you may want to actually look at this particular comparison. If I'm not mistaken, okay, let me just refer to this particular slides that you have in your day 4. So it's our final day today. All right. So some analysis that you can actually perform. I hope it's here. Oh, okay. I don't think it's actually in your day 2. My apology. Okay. So it's okay. All right. So what you do is that, okay, have a look at your day 2. Okay, because actually we're supposed to be doing this specimen starting from yesterday, but we actually have not finished with our September 2018. So we are supposed to be finishing our specimen 2 today. So have a look at that particular day 2 PowerPoint presentations. Okay, there's one part there where there's some kind of analysis that you can actually do. Okay, when you have these particular criteria there. Okay, so perhaps, okay, you want to compare in terms of experience, which of this particular candidate is actually fulfilling this criteria. So hopefully, once you have done that, okay, at the end, you'll be able to make your justification which one is actually more uh, fulfilling your requirement, and you would actually want him to be your chief executive, all right? So, right. Then this is your final exhibits. Okay, we have this final exhibits. This is basically the analysis of fraud. Okay, information based on the 2016 analysis. So as you look through this particular exhibits, okay, basically you need to do something. You need to actually interpret it and try to think of whether the way that it is being calculated here, is it making sense? So that's the reason why when you look at this, all right, I have down here, okay, as you look at the information, okay, you may need to, it needs to be interpreted and scrutinized, all right? Do you think that it has been analyzed correctly? So if you think that, okay, the way that actually calculate the estimation of fraud is not making sense and it's not reliable, then you may want to question why that they're doing it that way. Okay, so basically this is how you are going to look at these particular exhibits. Okay, what do you think of the fraud level affecting the railco? Because why they did mention about this particular fraud level? And you find that in this particular two, all right, basically these two lines, you see that, okay, this is ticket barrier, okay, so this is the town, okay, if you notice that those towns and here is not, okay, no ticket barrier, why is having the ticket barrier, okay. So also this particular information on the region where you don't have ticket barrier, okay, and here as well, oh dear, I think you know what is this. Okay, it's okay, all right, this, so basically this is what you have, right? Okay, so if you notice that, okay, they have information on estimated fraud due to poor internal control. This quite relates to your poor internal control. Poor internal control whereby they don't have this particular ticket barrier. All right. So basically, this is what it is all about. Okay, so you can actually answer your requirements that talks about that asks you to actually look at fraud, which is basically this one. Is it? Oh, this one. Okay. Because you're supposed to be referring that particular spreadsheet. Okay, this is all about that particular exhibit number 6 just now. So you may actually want to use it, okay, to help you answer this particular question, which is testing you on skepticism and commercial acumen. Okay. So that's basically the end of our exhibits. Okay. So I hope that helps you to actually plan for your answer and then be able to answer these particular questions. All right. So let's see for another 10 minutes that's left here. Okay, basically I want to go through with you some of the advices, okay, perhaps from your SBL peers from Malaysia. This is actually from my ex-students, okay. It's nice that they want to share something with you and some advices from them, especially to those who failed in September 2018 exam, and finally they passed in December 2018 exam. Okay, is to tell you that, okay, it's important for you to answer all questions, okay, and to read requirements carefully and take time to understand them, but not too long. All right, as long as you are able to understand what's required and then you do not misinterpret, that's very crucial. Okay, and then they say that pay attention to the task and professional skills, because eventually when they did the September 2000 exam where they failed, they actually have misinterpreted some of the requirements, and then some of them did not actually answer all the questions, and then in fact some of them spend too much time on one particular question and are not able to answer other questions. So basically they say time management is very crucial and answer plan actually helps a lot. And most of them actually did not use answer plan when they answered the September 2018. They do have, but they just don't pay attention to it. And I think, okay, they believe that that's one of the factors that actually help, that makes them, not help, makes them fail that particular exam. And eventually, when they actually focus in answering all the questions, making sure that they actually use marks as their guide, okay, and do a proper plan, actually helps them to pass into 2018. Okay, this is an advice from the top scorer. Okay, how he actually prepares and actually, okay, go through his SBL. Definitely, when I say top scorer, he passed the exam, all right, with good marks. So he advised for you to actually recap the knowledge on the topics, practice answering the full set of SBL questions, and watch related business videos. Okay, in the YouTube you can actually look at a lot of business videos that talks about the strategy of the business, okay, how they fall, okay, why they are not able to be successful in the turnaround strategy. You can just actually type there, you will be able to get some videos that can actually help you to understand business scenarios. Okay, and then another one will be listening to the podcast, okay, on business. So basically that helps him to actually understand the business world, and which is very crucial for SBL. And another thing is that he aims for 2 marks per sentence. Okay, that means if he has many points, he tried to actually connect some of the points together to make a sentence. So when you have many points together to make a sentence, right, you'll be able to get more marks. All right. And he said that good answer plan is actually crucial. In fact, he was telling me that it took him like, slightly more than an hour to actually do his answer plan. But eventually that good answer plan helps him to write very fast. And to pay attention to time management. Why? Because towards the end, you want to make sure that you have answered all the question. All right? Okay. There are also some students who are quite weak and are not quite good in writing, but they do pass. So they did mention that they have to master the syllabus content, and they actually practice SBL question every day because they say that practice kit actually helps them, and they read a lot of articles. So that actually helps them to pass, because eventually when they sit the progress test, like us here, okay, in my institution, we have 2 progress tests and we have 2 mock exam. All right, so for the students who eventually like keep on failing from the progress test 1, test 2, mock 1 and mock 2, right, these are the weak ones who will actually struggle and try their best to do as much question as possible, like without failing, every day that they're doing questions, and then every day that they do the readings. So what they said is that, okay, to read a lot of articles on business before pursuing into answering the question actually helps them in the flow of thoughts and writing, right? This is actually the advice from those who failed in December 2018 exam. Basically, they did not manage to manage their time well, and they advise that they do last minute studying, and that's the most apparent reason why they actually fail. So they should actually be reading articles from the start of the semester, but still, if you have not been reading any, it's still not too late, okay, even though you have to start early. But if those of you who are not sitting for this particular coming exam and you are going to sit in June, you still have time to actually improve. All right, practice, okay, writing, especially expressing thoughts in writing, and don't be lazy to practice full set of questions. Okay, what you can do in your final preparation is actually, okay, this is actually from, you have 20 days to exam. What is it that you can actually do? Okay, I have 2 minutes to run this through with you. Okay, so from the first 7 days, that means starting from tomorrow, at least you do 1 full set of SBL question, 1 Saturday. While practicing question, all right, if you still don't understand on certain topic, refer back to your topic area, have a understanding on that topic, then you go back and answer, because you still have time for this particular 1 week to actually master the areas. Read articles related to topic appearing in your SBL question you have attempted on that particular day. That would be a good help. And good to have a group study for group discussion. The second week, by now you should already know your SBL syllabus well. So it's time for you to actually practice the SBL question under full exam condition. So if you have your tutor, make them look at your answer scripts and make them comment on it so that you actually learn from your mistakes. Make sure you learn your mistakes from the first mock that you do to the second mock, that you are not going to repeat that same mistake again. Okay, stop practicing if you feel comfortable, and what you should do from there onwards is actually to read articles, listen to podcasts, and just, read and read and read articles. You don't have to actually look at the questions anymore. So basically, that is actually some of the preparation that you should be. So you should be enjoying your SBL. Okay, if ACCA do have free app on accounting and business articles, you can actually download it from Apple Store and Google Store. Okay, Play Store. You just type ACCA accounting and business. Definitely you'll find the app there. All right, and then you listen to podcasts, You watch videos like ACCA, Lego, Toys R Us, and Tesco for you to understand better, and then practice, okay, and practice and practice. During exam, stay calm, say your prayers, stay focused. Don't look at what other candidates are doing, okay? Stick to your time. And like, remember, I told you target only for 2/3 of the total marks. After exam, nothing else that you could do is pray for you to pass. God willing, you will pass, okay? But have yourself mentally prepared if you don't actually pass. Don't give up, okay? Remember, hard to accept failure, but believe me, okay, there's always blessing in disguise. You fail means you're going to be an expert in your SBL. So by that, I'm closing this particular last day of our webinar to wish you all the best, okay? Keep in touch. For those of you who have already have, okay, for those of you who are in the WhatsApp group, we will continue to communicate. All right. So my prayer that all of you will pass with your flying colors. All right. So all the best to you.